Can't Fold Volume 4 is officially out now. Go get your official Save America and Holy Confidence shirts, along with the bumper stickers for each. Be sure to subscribe to the emails to get notified about the drop, and thank you guys so much for supporting.
Why is the US military the strongest? Great military powers have been appearing and disappearing since the beginning of history. Now is the time for the United States of America to be the leader in military might. But what makes it so powerful? Will its power remain undisputed? Are there already signs of weakness? Would it really stand in a conflict with potential rivals like China or Russia?
This is interesting.
To find out, we should analyse why exactly the US military is considered the strongest.
All old glories.
Damn it.
The US has 1,400,000 active military personnel. This figure places it in third place in this category.
Ooh.
China has the largest army with slightly above 2 million soldiers.
Wow.
While India comes in second place. This doesn't sound that impressive, but what makes the US military stand out is not necessarily the raw number of men. The US has unquestionable air supremacy. The US military is number one in air power, with 13,264 total military aircraft.
Wow.
A total that is greater than the other 5 greatest air forces combined.
Oh, they don't want no smoke.
2,085 are air-to-air fighters, 715 ground attack aircraft, 945 transportation aircraft, 5,768 helicopters, and 967 attack helicopters. The US is number one in each aircraft category, except for air-to-ground forces, where it's slightly topped by Russia. The US has a powerful navy that is designed to work in conjunction with its air forces. It has 20 aircraft carriers, 11 are regular fixed-wing carriers, while 9 are capable of hosting only helicopters and short takeoff planes like the F-35B. This is almost half of the world's total number of aircraft carriers, while most of the others belong to allied countries. If we take into account only regular fixed-wing aircraft capacity, the total combined deck space of the US aircraft carriers is over twice that of all the other nations combined. To complement this, the US Navy has the greatest number of destroyers and ranks third in the number of submarines.
Wow. North Korea has the most?
The numbers of the US naval strength are a bit tricky. If we count the total number of naval assets, the US falls in fourth place, behind Russia and China, and even behind North Korea, that boasts a surprising first place.
Goodness.
North Korea ready
However,
for some
in case of
more.
a maritime conflict, it would still be hard to counter the power of the US Navy, supported by overwhelming air supremacy and allied forces.
Well, but it didn't work
Land
better.
power. The US is slightly behind Russia regarding raw numbers. American ground forces number 6,289 tanks, 39,000 armoured vehicles, 1,465 self-propelled artillery, and 1,366 rocket projectors. However, Russia has a lot of outdated vehicles with questionable performance in case of a real conflict. Meanwhile, the US military has a broad technological edge. The US has 5,800 nuclear warheads that make it the world's second largest in nuclear war power. In this video, we're analysing the conventional military strength, but it can't be denied that a nuclear arsenal does bring a certain status. Even if things don't escalate to a full-blown nuclear war, it's intimidating to any country to be armoured with such nuclear power. The quality. The US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century,
that is bothering me.
We need to know
who is number one.
Well, we just gonna say everybody else ranking their nukes. We probably just gonna
Russia.
do one.
Probably Russia.
They don't want to scare nobody or something. We need to know.
Russia, yeah.
Mother Russia, boy.
That's crazy.
That's why they made the movie Rocky. Because Americans was beefing with them.
But you know what else is crazy
That was
too?
during the USSR, huh?
They was beefing
If
with
Russia and
tense.
China team together, like if they put both of their stuff together, they're gonna.
It's the largest landmass and the largest population.
The planes though, we would still have them on the planes because they said it's more than all 5 of the next ones combined.
the US Army consists entirely of trained professionals, and many have real combat experience. Since the beginning of this century, the US has been involved in military conflicts in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Somalia, Libya,
Wow.
Uganda, and Yemen. While other countries still rely on conscripts to fill the numbers, the US can field an army of well-trained, experienced professionals. The equipment, the military assets, and the technology used in combat have excellent quality. This is the defining reason why US casualties are usually fewer than those of their adversaries. A strong ability to project power is another defining trait of the United States military. Size, technology, and experience are nothing if you can't reach the enemy. Power projection is the ability of a state to deploy and sustain forces outside its territory. Only a few states are capable to overcome the difficulties that involve power projection, and the US excels at it. This is made possible by several factors. The home base of the US is safe. The neighbouring countries are friendly. Potential enemies are far away. The large landmass makes it a country that is hard to invade. It also has coastlines along 2 oceans and strategic islands that hold military bases. The US forces can reach far, fast, and deploy great numbers of forces supported by the enforcement of air and sea superiority, combined with excellent transportation capabilities. Even if it doesn't engage in combat, the US can enforce naval and air blockades that can severely cripple an enemy's economy. The US has by far the largest network of military bases operating outside of its territory. Information regarding the exact number and location of such bases involves classified information, so we can only estimate the total extent of the overseas military presence. Back in 2013, the Pentagon stated that there were around 600 military bases overseas. A rough estimate would be around 1,000 overseas US military compounds.
Wow.
Approximately 165,000 military personnel is stationed outside the United States. This doesn't include areas of conflict such as Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. The US has significant forces deployed in around 55 countries and autonomous territories. It is also estimated that more than 150 countries have a certain degree of US military presence. Alliances. The United States can rely on a vast network of alliances. It is the de facto leader of NATO, the world's strongest military alliance. 18 other countries are designated as major non-NATO allies. This list includes countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Egypt, Israel, Argentina, and Brazil. Taiwan's status is a bit more complicated and it can be considered a de facto ally. Some countries are not formal allies but have a strong strategic partnership with the US. One notable example is India, that participates in regular military drills together with US forces and some of its allies.
We like India.
Why do they swing their arms like that?
Modern warfare is sustained in the long term by 2 main factors: the capacity to produce military equipment and the capacity to spend money on defence. American defence companies are the indisputable top producers of weaponry. Among the world's top 10 defence suppliers, 5 of them are American companies.
Wow.
Lockheed Martin is the biggest. It reported a revenue of almost $60 billion US
That's why they keep
in
sending us to
2019.
war.
That's close to Russia's entire annual military spending.
Wow.
The strength of the US military is also due to its huge military budget. In 2019, spending on the US military was a whopping $732 billion US dollars.
Wow.
That's almost 3 times more than China, the world's second largest military spender, and is
Well, I
roughly
think that sums it
1/3
up
of
right
the
there,
entire
man.
world's defense budget. While Russia is commonly regarded as the second most powerful army in the world, its budget consists of only $65 billion. Arguably, there is an aspect of purchasing power. For example, it's cheaper to pay a Russian or Chinese soldier, but the cost of high-quality military equipment is still the same around the world. The reason that the US can afford such an enormous military budget is that it's supported by a strong economy. America has been the world's largest economy since 1871. Its nominal GDP is currently $21.44 trillion US dollars. This is almost a quarter of the global economy,
We probably
and
can't
it's
afford
backed
it,
with plenty of natural resources, advanced infrastructure, and technology. Besides the ability to sustain an enormous defence budget, the US often uses its economic strength as a weapon by enforcing economic sanctions. Soft factors.
They make the rules.
Soft power is another factor that comes into play when assessing a country's might. The US is world-beating in culture, education, and technology. American pop culture has an enormous influence, and this won't change anytime soon. America also hosts most of the world's top-ranking universities with a record number of international students. The US leads the world of technology and digitalization as home to the world's most influential tech companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. It's easy to think that this doesn't seem important in warfare, but imagine an enemy soldier that would have to attack the country where his cousin studies, the country of his favourite music band, the country of his favourite actors from the movie that he watches on an American media platform like YouTube, or an American smartphone with American software.
We so spoiled.
Finally, there is another critical
Literally.
aspect. It is called the will to fight. And this is the single most important factor in war. The will to fight is the disposition to engage in combat, the determination to keep fighting even when facing precarious odds, and finally to win. At an individual level, a soldier with a low will to fight will avoid engagement with the enemy and is likely to flee when things get tough. A battle is won when the enemy's will to fight is broken. Wars don't end when one military destroys the other. Wars end when one side grows weary of fighting, doesn't see any further purpose in the continuation of the conflict, and gives up. The national will to fight is what keeps a nation fighting. This is commonly linked to a sense of patriotism, national identity, and motivation generated by the idea that one fights for what is right. In the past, this has been a strong point of the US, as Americans have been fighting against dictators and terrorists that lacked concern for human life and dignity. In contrast, the USA has been regarded as a country that embodies values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. It was the country that defined such values. Even more, it was the country that was willing to fight for these values. The American soldier has been motivated by a sense of moral supremacy rooted in the country's Christian tradition. However, America doesn't seem to be so cohesive in its values anymore. There are many factors intertwined that provoke this. It's a complex topic that deserves a study on its own.
I wonder why this is
But
censored.
the outcome is that America is now a country that is greatly divided among ideological lines and systems of belief. Many of its citizens are not sure what to believe in anymore, or even what they stand for.
Wow.
There have been many lessons in history. Small nations became great empires by holding high moral standards along with a disciplined and motivated army. A great empire's fall was usually preceded by internal strife and moral crisis.
Wow.
The final story of the United States of America as a global power is not yet written. The nation's strength rests upon its citizens and their decisions. It's a matter of this great nation getting back its cohesion and moral compass. That is, if it wants to keep its status as the world's greatest superpower and defender of freedom.
Man, that was crazy.
That was
Well,
a great.
that
That
was-
was a great video.
Y'all understand what's
yeah,
going on,
That was a
man.
great video.
That took a very interesting turn at
That's
the
why you
end.
gotta save
That
America
caught me
right
way
now.
off- that caught me way off guard.
honest, but at the end of the day,
I wonder what
think
was
that
up-
was all facts.
I wonder what was up with that censored part, huh?
I think
I
that was
don't know
the
what that
riots.
So maybe
The
something like
riots
that.
and things.
I was thinking about something like that. Something a little
The
woke.
riots, etc.
I was thinking.
They trying to make weak
Literally.
men, bro. We're getting an attack against
They are.
American citizens,
It's
bro.
all-
Yeah, I can definitely see like a lot of battles we probably won back in the day. All the men were probably patriotic. Now we got half of the men pussies and don't even believe in the flag.
I think it's crazy that nationalism and patriotism is like demonized.
It is. When people say the American flag is racist, then it's like
and that's what's gonna make us weak.
I think
That's
that's
basically
crazy.
It
I
is.
think
The
I
end
think
of this
that's I
video.
think that's like a
It
bad
is.
ideology to push. To be proud of your country is a bad thing. Like
Yep.
what? Like
Yep.
that's actually idiotic to me. Like where could you grow up and have the same things you have here? Well, name one place.
As a black man at this point, when you
Even
thinking of that-
even deeper than that,
'Cause,
like
yeah,
to have the
people
freedoms,
It's protection.
to have the freedoms and stuff we have, like
people forget I feel
sports,
like-
freedom,
Man.
your rights, everything that you have here, opportunity, everything you have here. Where can you grow up and have it better than here?
Nowhere.
Where?
Jordan Peterson said people forget the ultimate goal of the politics is to figure out, okay, we all care about America, so let's figure out how we can make it it the best. That's the actual goal of politics. But then people get so caught up in their own little argument that they forget. That's what
I think it's very tribal nowadays. Like people try to look out for like
it is. It's 100%.
I personally, as a young man, I just look at politics. How can I make this a better place for me and people that are like minded like me? I mean, I think at this point it's common sense. Like if we're gonna keep, like they said in the video, societies that were powerful have a high moral standard and things like that. I think it's common sense at this point.
One nation.
Under God.
It's really simple.
Let us know what y'all think about this video. I think it was great.
Save
guys.
America.
Right.
You already know.